Όχι, έχω ψαλτές, έχω γραμματικός, τι εσύ?
I will talk about the University of Kentucky Institute for Latin Studies and about the summer Latin seminars as a global destination and as a point of departure. What is the Institute for Latin Studies, what we call Studium Latinis, Institutum Studiis Latinis Provehendis? This is a graduate certificate curriculum that has its separate diploma as a graduate certificate curriculum, and it is could be a part of the MA program. At the University of Kentucky, we have an MA program, and many students come to complete an MA degree in classics, and usually almost all of the students complete also the graduate certificate curriculum in Latin studies, and some, in more rare circumstances, come to complete only the graduate certificate curriculum. We have a current student of ours, Alan van den Arend, who is a Cornell graduate and was a high school teacher in New Jersey. He's a current student both in the MA program and in the Institute. What is the history of our institute? Our institute goes dates back from, it was founded in 2001, but actually we can trace its origins back in time. In 1996, Dr. Terence Thunberg, potest seus tendere, founded the Conventiculum Lexingtoniense. Conventiculum Lexingtoniense was the first active Latin summer seminar in North America that was not religion-based. Dr. Thunberg had participated some of the European seminars in Germany and in Belgium, and he wanted to do something similar in North America that would be open to anybody, to high school teachers, college and university professors, undergraduate, graduate students, Latin aficionados who could come and study together Latin, read, converse in Latin completely freely, and everything to be done in Latin. So such seminars existed in Europe, and they in Europe, they appeared mainly in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and all of them relate back to the 1956 International Congress in Avignon, where Latin scholars from the whole world gathered in an international congress for the promotion of Latin and decided how they could promote Latin together in some more united effort, somewhat as a response to the Second World War, trying to use Latin as a language and as a treasure that can unite people more generally. So following this European tradition, Dr. Thunberg founded in 1996 the Summer Latin Seminar Conventiculum, which has had tremendous success since then, and now the Conventiculum is in its 20th year. After a few years of success for the Summer Latin Seminar, there was need for an academic program that would occur during the academic year. That's when the Institutum Studiis Latinis Provehendis was established in 2001 and now is in its 15th year. What are the principles of our Latin Institute? We have two main principles that are actually the two faces of the same coin. First, we teach and study the whole Latin patrimony in its continuity. We study from ancient times, medieval, humanistic, modern, up to nowadays. We don't exclude any texts, and we acknowledge the extreme importance of authors like Erasmus, Thomas More, everybody like Newton or Copernicus who wrote about science in Latin, or all the accounts about the discovery of the New World written in Latin, all the novels written in Latin that give material for the modern science fiction. So all this patrimony, which is enormous, which is an enormous treasure, because actually Latin is really the language that shaped the Western world. All this we study. We do not limit ourselves to ancient Latin. And doing this, we use Latin as a language of communication, not only with the authors who wrote before us in Latin, but also among ourselves. So Latin was the language of Res Publica Literarum, the Republic of Letters, and if we acknowledge that Latin existed in its continuity from ancient till modern times, we should also acknowledge that Latin was the language of this Res Publica Literarum, and we use Latin to communicate with each other. Who comes to our institute? Actually, we have applicants, students, who come from all over the United States, and from around the world. They come to the Bluegrass region and to the horse capital of the world, which is Lexington, Kentucky. But it is also a Latin center. We like to flatter ourselves that it's not only a horse industry center, but also a Latin center. We have had graduates from top colleges and universities, from Harvard, Yale, Cornell, Texas Austin, William and Mary, and so on. And we have many students who come to us with advanced degrees, masters or doctors. We have had students with advanced degrees in medieval studies, New Testament, teaching English as a second language, musical art. Our studies are interdisciplinary in some ways. This is why students who have completed degrees in a different field come to us, since Neo-Latin is really interdisciplinary in its own nature. We have had international students. We have students who came from Australia, Brazil, Italy, France, England, Netherlands. Currently, we have students who come to us as undergraduates, and according to a new pilot program, they complete both BA and MA in 4 years. This is possible with accelerated program. So we have, in some of my graduate classes, there are undergraduates who are thriving together with the graduates. Also, some of our students come to complete concurrent degrees with another program that we have in our department. It's Master of Arts in Teaching World Languages, where they learn also about second language acquisition. So it's possible to complete Master of Arts in Latin, in classics, and also Master of Arts in Teaching World Languages, and get certified as a teacher in Kentucky, but beyond Kentucky also. So these are our students. What are the activities in our institute? Required for degree, and now I'm talking about the institute itself, which is the graduate certificate curriculum, are 3 classes preceded by Latin composition class. Everybody is supposed to complete the Latin composition class in order to be able to communicate effectively in Latin. There is another class on advanced Latin composition, and students usually complete this one also. Then we have surveys of ancient Latin literature, late ancient and medieval literature, humanistic literature. Also, we have classes in which we treat single authors, or classes in which we are concentrating around a special genre. For example, we had some of the topics were the Epistulis, the Optimo Genere Dicendi, the Optima Republica. So what are we doing in our classes? The most important thing, the activity that pervades all our institution is a narratio auctorum. It means we read the texts that are assigned. We read them in Latin and we explain them in Latin. We do not translate. Everything could be explained up to the most minute detail in Latin, and this is an old practice that is called a narratio auctorum. So with periphrases, with synonyms, with simple ways of explaining, with questions and answers, we explain the text in Latin. But of course, students read all the secondary literature in English, French, German, Italian, Spanish, Latin, in whatever language the secondary literature is. Then they do reports in Latin. Also, students have to write their papers. The papers are written in Latin. With us in the MA program, it's not required to write a thesis. Some of the students write theses, and some of them write the thesis in Latin. We have had, for example, a student who wrote on the prose rhythm of the humanistic author Marcus Antonius Muretus, compared his prose rhythm with the prose rhythm in Cicero. This was in Latin. Currently, we have a student who writes a thesis on a poem about the Battle of Cartagena in 1741, the battle in which the British who tried to advance in Spanish Colombia were defeated, actually, and there are comparisons with the fate of the ancient Carthage and this new Carthage. So this is written in Latin. Besides the regular classes, we have also extra classes in which students come just to converse in Latin, sometimes to read some news in Latin, describe images in Latin, but also to read the humanistic colloquia. And the humanistic colloquia were very simple, or sometimes not so simple, depends on the author, dialogues written in Latin that help enhance familiarity with the language, and also teach good grammar and teach good mores, actually. So sometimes, actually often, this is one of the main activities in our extra classes. Otherwise, we have really vita communis. We have Latin lunches every week. Students celebrate their Latin dinners every week. Every year we have official, solemn Latin lunches in which we award the diplomas in Latin. We have small Latin trips, ambulationes latinae. There is Domus Latina, in which some of our students live. As Professor Dirk Sacré from the Leuven University, who came in honor of the 10th anniversary of our institute, as he said, vos habetis vitam Latinam. We try to live truly Latin life. What are the paths of our alumni? Some of our students go to PhD programs. Recently, students have gone to Johns Hopkins, New York University, Colorado, Minnesota. Currently, we have a student who is defending thesis at Brown University and is going to look for a job. Our institute has research connections with Neo-Latin institutes like the Boltzmann Institute for Neo-Latin Studies that is in Innsbruck, Austria, or with the Leuven University in Belgium, as well as with the University College in Cork in Ireland. And some of our students, upon graduation, go to these places for research. And they have won some prestigious scholarships with these places. Other students become Latin teachers in public schools in Kentucky and beyond, especially those who get certified as Latin teachers through the Matwell program, which is Master of Arts in Teaching World Languages. It's not necessary to be certified if you teach in a private school. Many of our students become teachers in private schools, in preparatory schools, different schools, Catholic, Christian schools, in the Great Hearts Academies all over the United States. Some of our students, some of the graduates of the Institute go to disciplines outside of classics. For example, we have an alumnus with a PhD in philosophy from the University of Arizona, who is currently professor at the University of Wisconsin in Oshkosh, and he is professor in philosophy. So there is variety of paths for our alumni. Let me talk briefly about the 2 summer Latin seminars which we are currently celebrating. We have 2 summer seminars. One is the Lexington Summer Seminar, Conventiculum Lexingtoniense, that Dr. Thunberg founded in 1996. And we also have another one at the Dickinson College, which we call Conventiculum Dickinsoniense. The summer seminar in Lexington is bigger. Usually there are between 70 and 80 participants. In Dickinson is designed to be smaller, between 30 and 40. We have had international participants from 5 continents, both Americas, Asia, Australia, and Europe. We haven't had any from Africa and from Antarctica yet. But the summer seminars have had enormous success. They are full immersion seminars. Actually, Dr. Thunberg arranges for everybody to sign an oath that they would not use another language on the premises except Latin. And this works out very well. There are a variety of sessions. We read different authors, explain in Latin. We have a small stories about everyday life so that appropriate vocabulary would be available for everyday conversation. We describe pictures. We have pedagogical sessions in which participants share their pedagogical experiences and give useful tips to each other. Sometimes we have oraciones, lectures by some of our participants on a topic that would interest the participants, various topics. We have a participant from Australia who likes to talk about exotic animals in Australia, for example. We have small Latin walks, and always a very important part of the summer seminars is to prepare a fabula, a small dramatic presentation, which the students, the participants, prepare throughout the duration of the summer seminar and present it usually on the last day, and it is really a joyful occasion. So usually it's based on an author that we read during the seminar. Then the group of more advanced students work on writing the play, and they present it the last day. This has been, in the old Jesuit tradition of theatrical presentations, this has been very successful, and we have generally a real consuetudo latina, very good friendship between the participants. I would like also to mention that currently at the University of Kentucky we are establishing a post-baccalaureate program in active Latin, mainly aimed for Latin teachers who would like to come during the summer for one academic course that actually would give academic credit, and once teachers complete 3 of these courses, they could receive the diploma of the certificate, and we also actually have some fellowships for this. So we will be making announcement, and you may look if you're interested to come to spend a few weeks in the Bluegrass area. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Yes, ma'am.
What are people finding is helpful preparation if you're coming into this for the first time? Are there suggestions that you make, or students to other students?
For the summer seminars, you mean? Or
to a week program?
To the summer seminars, to a week program. You don't need any preparation really. as long as you have passive command of the language. You need to have good knowledge, firm grasp of morphology, and rather solid grasp of syntax. People who are beginners in the Latin language are not advised to come to these seminars. People who are beginners in speaking are advised to come. You can just read. If you want to be prepared in advance, you can read. Dr. Timber wants to say.
May I add a footnote to that question? The minimum qualification would be a moderately good reading knowledge of Latin, even if one needs to make use of a lexicon very often. That would suffice. And we have many sessions designed specifically for people who have never spoken a word, to acclimatize them to the environment and to give them the necessary vocabulary.
If you want to read some of these colloquia, you can find them everywhere on Google Books, but also our students have put some of the humanistic colloquia on stoa.org, and you can find and listen to some of them. It will be just acclimatizing you a little bit, but you don't need any preparation.
I was just going to say, to answer you, I went to their program originally 10 years ago in Kentucky, or 8 years ago. I mean, not in Kentucky, but in Nantucket. And they sent us, I think, it was a sheet just of sort of, hi, how are you, and simple conversational stuff. And that really helped.
Yeah,
We've only
but
expanded upon that.
But we do this immediately the first day. So even if you're not prepared with this, you do this. There is immediately the first day there is a session with salutations.
How to
So,
say hello, goodbye.
so if you're a Latinist with passive knowledge, you can just come. If you want to be a Latinist but are not Latinist yet, that's not the good place to start. For a beginner in Latin, that's not good a place to start. But if you have already knowledge of Latin, you can come and jump into the water. Everybody swims out.
And the postbac, is that going to be, how long will the courses be over the summer?
She has invited me to respond. This is very new. The post-bac would be something that could be done in 1 year, and technically speaking, it could be done at any time. If you were to do it over the summer, we have been developing courses, and we've developed versions of the courses that extend through one term of the academic year, which is 3 months, to be done in 3.5 weeks. It means that people meet every day for some hours, with maybe Sundays excepted.
This is for one course, though. You would complete only one course.
3 of those, you would have the certificate. And we have just before coming to this conference, we have from a donor who I'm not at liberty to name at the moment. We have 6 fellowships.
This is for the
Okay.
summer.
We can,
Yes.
we can pay tuition for 6 people. They have to pay their room and board. And so people interested in doing this should write to me. You will have to be competitive to one.
And people who come during the academic year, if they also pursue the MA degree, they're eligible for funding. There are TAships and fellowships, which are very competitive, but they also could have funding in this way.
The post-bac was basically the Latin certificate.
Yeah, but if you come only for the certificate during the academic year, there is no funding. Yeah.
And how can we reach you? I mean, what are your email addresses?
My name, my second dot, and
I'll,
email.
yeah, and I'll put my email.
Milena is same. There's your address.
If you write Kentucky Classics, we appear very quickly on the faculty. Maybe we should finish so that people can move to other rooms. Thank you very much.
Gracias.
Gracias.